Hello everybody, it is Saturday the 4th of March. Now, I want to think about whether what we are being told, and that is that the state of gross matter that we are in, the state of solid world, is a fallen world, or whether the real state of enlightenment is to let go of this world and to become these light beings that are just pure energy. We've been told that, and many are actually just accepting that as truth. I mean, who came up with that? According to who is this fallen and that enlightened? But we're just running with it. We've been told that and we're running with it without thinking. And I think the biggest mistake or the biggest problem is that we don't actually have a base from which to think. Because you would need knowledge to think from, to reason whether that is good or bad. And then you should really have the same base of thinking as themselves. You need to know their source out of which that reasoning came. So I'm reading the Kabbalion, which is Hermetic Thinking, and yes, it is the base for many of the thinkings that are going on now and that are actually creating this world. And as we can see at the moment, that this world is mostly created by a few. Those, let's say, that are in the top of the pyramid, the all-seeing eye, the detached top of the pyramid. I'll come to that later. So they are the ones that are directing the affairs of man, whilst man is just doing and not asking questions and wondering why the world is going to hell around him. It's because their thinking is wrong. There were mistakes in the thinking. And we really, if we are to work a correction, we must correct the mistakes in the thinking. Because they went wrong. And they are now directing the affairs of this world from a wrong place. And we must understand that. We must understand what it creates in us, what we've been told, and how we are reacting. Because we've been told a wrong perspective of ourselves and what this is. So I want to go through some of the Hermetic principles and to just show you the right way of looking at them. Actually, they look at that themselves in that way whilst they're driving us into a different perspective. So first of all, the principle of polarity, duality. Yeah? And here I want to talk, as I did in my videos before, the male and the female force, which in their polarity, in their outer edges, that is in their extremes. In the Christian tradition, it would be Satan and Lucifer. Or going a bit deeper into it, it is the male and the female force, the restricting force and the expanding force. Yeah? And then when you look at them in their outer edges, what you're actually looking at is all or nothing, which cannot be reconciled. They can't even have a conversation with each other because there's no definition contained in either state that you could discuss. Yeah? So that's impossible. They cannot be reconciled. And then you might come to the thinking of a Jesus. You can only be one side or the other. Where the truth is that in between those states, there are many, many different states. Yeah? And in every other state, apart from the extremes, they are actually one. In every state in between, they are one. So, when you say all or nothing, but you say something, in that state, the state of something, they are one. And something could be anything. So there you have all the possibilities. But you're being driven into looking at one or another. Yeah, you must make a choice. And you're being driven away from the knowledge of all the possibilities that are in between, where they are naturally one. And I heard in a Kabbalistic teaching, and that is the way to manifest, to produce matter. And that is a knowledge of the all being made manifest in this world. A knowledge, a possibility. Because it is something, it is not all, obviously, and it's not nothing either, but it is a possibility. We can make manifest possibilities in this world, and they will become solid matter. So that is when the two come together. They are creating matter. So that is what we're doing. So then are we dragging the all from its wonderful exalted state into matter, and we're doing something wrong to it? No, we're just making it a knowing. That's what we're doing. And it wants to be known. Let's say it wants to be known. But we cannot know it all, therefore we must convert it into matter so we do know it. And it can never be all, it can only be something, but there's hundreds of thousands, millions, trillions, gazillions of somethings, possibilities that we can manifest. And that is neither good nor bad. That is how it is. Good and bad comes into being, and that is the next Hermetic principle, by cause and effect. What do you bring into a being, and what effect will it have on everything else? Because it will have a knock-on effect if you bring something new. If you want to integrate something new into everything else, it will have a knock-on effect. And that is where we must reason. Although we can manifest anything and everything, should we? What should we manifest? And there's again the thinking of God, that all, well, I would say all should strive. Yeah, all should benefit in some way. And although there might be some give and take, the overall effect should be good. So that's the second principle of the Hermetic principles, the cause and effect. And if you are in solid matter, you must take that into account, because it will affect you. You are subject to that law. So we are not in conflict, we can manifest, we must reason about cause and effect. Now here comes the next thing, and that is the thinking of the swing of the pendulum, that everything goes one way, but then it will swing back the other. Everything is always in movement, and if you have a force going one way, it will swing back the other. And again, those that are in gross matter right now should really consider that. Yeah? If you swing the pendulum, toward all, which there are those in this world at the moment that are doing that. I want to be all. My will must be done. They're swinging the pendulum toward all. And everything must be according to me. I am all. Now, if you are in gross matter and you're not one of those wonderfully enlightened beings that are no longer attached to this, you will be part of the backswing, and it will swing back. That is another law of the all, which has been proven in this world. Yeah? So the pendulum will swing back to the same amount that you have taken. You will be, it will be taken away from you, and you will end up where you were before, with nothing, or very little, whatever state you started swinging from. So that is something that those that are in gross matter around here, that are very much a part of this world should consider. They might think, I'm going there and I'm becoming all, there will be a backswing, and you're going to be part of that. Some countries in this world should maybe consider that. And here we come the path of enlightenment. And this is what they consider the way of evolution for us to become light beings, and that is to detach yourself from the swing of the pendulum. That's what they're doing. The ego is somehow being detached from the swing of the pendulum, so they are above, let's say, the moving of the sea, whereas the masses are swinging with the pendulum. They are above it, and therefore not affected by the backswing of the pendulum through detachment from this gross matter. Get out of the gross matter and detach yourself and go to a higher plane of consciousness, and you're no longer part of the swing of the pendulum. Now, and here is where I've seen a big mistake with that. And you can see that mistake in this world because they are in that detached state. And that is what's driving this world to hell. Because if you're in the pendulum, if you're in the gross matter, you are the one that is creating. You are still here. You are creating outcomes. You are manifesting matter. You are the ones that are doing that. And obviously then you are the one that will suffer the outcome. But if they think themselves on a higher plane of knowledge, some of them, and that is the top of the pyramid, that is not completely detached because you can see their streams coming down to the base. They direct the affairs of man. Yeah, they are the gods, the ones removed from this reality that affect the affairs of man, unaffected by it themselves. First of all, the knowledge they have got is by then second-hand knowledge. It is no longer the fullness of the knowledge. They don't know it, but it has now become mental. Yeah, it has become mental. It is just reasoning without the fullness of the knowledge when you're still in source, which this is a source. Yeah? And then it is just the problem. They are directing the affairs of men from a detached state. No longer the fullness of the knowledge. So if they are not the fullness of the knowledge, so how is theirs the higher state? When we are the fullness of the knowledge. But then apparently you can go further than that. You take the knowledge that you have gained, which is second-hand knowledge, and then you start reasoning on that knowledge alone, detached, more and more detached from the source of the knowledge, which is this world. So you're removing yourself. Knowledge starts reasoning on knowledge, and it goes on and further out, more and more detached from the source. So there is something that the Hermetic teaching says, that if you find a path to those that have gone far out, so they are completely detached from reality. Yes, that's what they are. They're detached from reality further and further. And they say that a mere mortal cannot fathom what these beings are talking about. It is so far above them. But it is really looking at from our point of being, which is complete, I'm nothing, that this inferiority complex. So if you look at them and you don't understand them, you assume that you know nothing and they know everything. and that the only reason that you do not understand them is because you know nothing? Or is it you don't understand them because they are completely detached from reality while you're still in it? And then do we think about that as insanity? Do we think them insane, detached from reality? So then the most enlightened, the most far out, are the most insane of them all. You know, the Hermetic thinking itself says you cannot know all. You should not go into all. The path into all is for sure the path that will, first of all, lead to insanity, and secondly, makes you unfit for life. They can no longer return. They are now in a way of being created out of their own reasoning that makes them unfit for life. So the Hermetics say that. You become insane and unfit for life. At the same time, they are worshipping those that have detached and think they are enlightened beings. So I don't know if they don't see that there is a conflict in those two thinkings, and that there may be two dots there that they have failed to connect. So, and there is a path of evolution by which you detach from reality and you go further and further out into all. You're becoming less and less matter because it's no longer attached to matter, it does no longer create matter. But first of all, actually most of all, that is a dead end. That leads you to a dead end. Because the more you detach from reality, the further out you go, the less you receive knowledge from reality, until at one point you are out there at a point where you have nothing to evolve with anymore. It is a dead end. Because you will have detached that far from the source that you can no longer receive from it. And then you can only reason within yourself. But nothing new can come into it. It cannot expand. And that is a dead end. That way of enlightenment is a dead end. To my mind, when I reason about it, I would say it leads to a dead end. So what do we do? And here's the next thing, because we are in the swing of the pendulum. And right now, it's an extreme swing. That needs to stop, because we will swing back. Yeah, and we will reap what we have sown. So somehow we need to stop this. But how do we evolve? Now, it is the way of becoming. It is that. But if we say, and here comes Jesus' thinking and what he actually did, according to the Hermetic thinking, is that if this pendulum swings towards good, if we become at some point that, then we are the point from which the pendulum will swing again. So every time we move the point from which the pendulum will swing. Now, the best way would be, because we need to know that it is good for us to become the next point. We need to know what we become and that it is good. So if we go with the swing of the pendulum and we become, and then we become the next point from which the pendulum swings, for us to know it is good, we can only take very small steps. The smaller the better. Only where we can be in absolute certainty about what the outcome, the cause and the effect will be. And here comes Jesus, and this is what he did. And I would say, again, based on thinking like this, he waited until the pendulum had swung all the way to I am all, everything is possible. And then he became, at that point, at the most outer point that the pendulum could swing to, he became that. State and solid matter, he was solid matter, but he became that. And then he says, now I am the new foundation from which the pendulum will swing. But I've gone to the outer edge of good, and I'm swinging from there. The problem that I can see with that is if you have become a oneness, where's the pendulum going to swing to? It can. I don't. I have a problem with that. I haven't actually quite figured that out yet. But if you have become the outer edge, where's this pendulum going to swing to then? And the other thing is, of course, and that is exactly what went wrong with Jesus, that if you do swing to the outer edge, you have gone beyond where you can calculate the consequences from where you are at now. He was at a point where he could no longer calculate the consequences. This is an outcome. The book of Revelation was the outcome. So as I said, swing to a point where you can see the consequences, become that, and then let the pendulum swing again. It shows you good and bad. You know, you go there, that is going to be the effect. And out of that, again, you can see where you should go next. But keep the movement as small as you can possibly can. But again, it is Sabbatean thinking. And again, something that is might be, there's so many different ways at the moment that are affecting this. But it is Sabbatean thinking, again, to say to, out of, if you bring the world into the most restricted place, so bad, as far bad, let it swing as far bad as you can get, then it will swing to the same amount to good. And there's out of great tribulation we will, get the greatest enlightenment. It is the most destructive way that you can go. I mean, it might give you a big swing to great enlightenment, but it is utterly destructive on its way. As I said, that is my opinion. To my opinion, the swing of the pendulum should be as small as possible. We must know that we manifest knowledge. And when we do, we create outcomes, and out of the outcomes, we will know good or bad. And we must rethink. It's not the wrath of God or something like that. You made a mistake. If you had thought about it really carefully beforehand and it still didn't work out, well, there's something you didn't know. It's not your fault. But you have created an outcome and now you must deal with that. So that is what we're doing. But here's the thing now, and that is going back to the beginning of the video, is the state of gross matter, the lesser state. This is the state in which we manifest knowledge of the all. This is the state where the manifestation of that knowledge will create consequences and therefore driving us to corrections. And every new picture that we create will give a greater knowledge of the all. This is the place where we gather the knowledge. We are the ones that gather the knowledge through creating outcomes, through manifesting matter. We are the workers. Now those that are once detached, they are then the gods that we serve. Our knowledge shall serve them to go on a path that is further and further detached from the source itself until they are no more matter at all. They cannot evolve anymore and they run into a dead end. That is my thinking. They've run into a dead end. And on the way there, if they go in the Sabbatean way of big swings of the pendulum, they are causing death and destruction in this world, just to get themselves on the path into a dead end. But this is really And again, you are in the Bible, you are a Christian, you're being told that it's a certain way, you know, Satan is fighting with Lucifer, and you must do this, and you must do that, and whereas their own knowledge, as it says, is built on completely different knowing. And it's only when you have that knowing yourself, you're on that path, that you can see what they're doing. And it is not a case of follow them the whole way. Because again, that's some of what the Hermetics say, you know, these really enlightened beings that we cannot fathom. To my mind, we cannot fathom them because they're insane. But he said for an initiate to go to that place, they must go on the secret path. That is to say, you're being led more and more and more into the way of their thinking, yeah, which might in itself be logic, but hell. So until you are the fullness of their knowledge, and then you understand them, mainly because you have just become as insane as they are. You know, lunatics together, they do understand each other. So, okay, I think I leave it at that at the moment. There's an awful lot in it. You know, an awful lot in it that we need to digest and really think about. How do we apply that in this world? I mean, there's one thing seeing what is creating, what is actually the lunacy that is happening at this moment. But how do you stop it? How the hell do you stop it? How do you bring to awareness to people what is happening to them? What the thoughts are that are driving them? And to see that they are on a completely wrong path. And how do you do it in yourself? I mean, how do you create that in yourself? I say it is one thing seeing something, it is another for it to create a reality. And there's a step in between the two that I really don't have. Which leaves me to, please, if you think that this is any good, bring it to awareness of others to see if we can think about this and apply this and see how we're going wrong, first of all. And secondly, if you want me to go on this path, and I'm not at a point where I can manifest because there's a step I just haven't got yet, then please donate to my channel and sustain me in matter, because I think that's where I need to be. That's where we all need to be. This is the state of gaining knowledge, and we need to be sustained in it. Anyway, I leave it at that, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.